GameBrew fans, it's me, Dan. Welcome to episode 49. Woohoo! That's one away from 50. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You are the best and coolest people ever. For real, you are. And if you want to support us, there's a few ways to do that. One, leave us a good review on iTunes. It's really helpful. You can subscribe and tell your friends to also subscribe to the podcast on whatever sort of podcast listening thing you're using. Super helpful. Gets you friends in there. You can share anything we do on social media. Everything's basically at the GameBrew. It's pretty easy. And you can send us topic ideas and suggestions at thegamebrew@gmail.com. And of course, you can support us monetarily and some other cool charities by using our Humble Bundle link, bit.ly/GameBrew. That's bit.ly/GameBrew. All right, I will leave you alone and listen to Ian start the show. Bye.
Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the GameBrew podcast, our special breakfast episode. I am your host, Ian, Principal Vernon Richard, and I'm here with Chris, John Bender writes.
This is an audio medium. Nobody got your amazing
For those
thing.
at home, I did the hand up.
Dan Brian Johnson Rotz. Dan,
Oh, there we go.
this is an audio medium.
You guys. Nobody could pull a breakfast.
I'm sorry. Everything they do is
quote?
visual in the Breakfast Club. I can't.
No, there are quotes.
I don't
Will
remember anything.
Andrew Clark Shell.
Which one's Andrew Clark?
He's the jock, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
Emilio Estevez.
And Allison Reynolds Vandevender.
When you grow up, your heart dies. I'm the only one with a quote from this.
Thank you.
There
Thank
you
you,
Good job.
Allison,
You
for
did.
Well,
bringing
I
My
was-
this
quote,
spirit.
my quote was visual.
I wanted to
most
say,
defining thing
don't
from
mess
that
with the
movie.
bull, young man.
Today on
get
our
the
very
horns.
special early morning breakfast edition of the show, we'll air out our backlogs, Marie Kondo style, and in the second half, we'll decide whether or not nostalgia is ruining gaming. But first, it's time for a brew of coffee.
Of coffee.
Because it's
No, not
really
coffee.
early.
Nice.
I'm not drinking coffee.
What are you drinking?
What are you drinking?
I am drinking mate.
What is mate?
Yerba mate?
Yerba
No.
mate.
I only know that's a drink from Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, it's a traditional South American caffeine-rich infused drink. It has like the same caffeine as coffee, but it like tastes like tea. It's great.
Oh,
cool.
nice. That's cool.
I should try that.
It's
Mate.
my Jimmy Jam.
And what mug are you drinking out of today?
This is a 2013 Disney World Cup.
Nice.
The three is the handle. Isn't that cool?
That's nice. That's
See, you
cool.
can't do that with many other years, to be
no, but
honest.
they
No.
they nailed it on the 13.
That's awesome.
I did. I'm drinking a coffee called Cafe La Grave, and it is an espresso, and the what is it the what do you call this? The subtitle. The subtitle for it, or the tagline, is "Tostado especialmente para el gusto latino," which I think means toasted especially for the healthy Latino, but I'm not sure. So I typed it into Google Translate. We're gonna see what happens. Oh no! See, my Spanish is just bad. Toasted especially for the Latin flavor.
Ah, okay. Well, I mean,
That makes more sense.
For the healthy
That makes
Latino. What are you drinking out of? I hope it's not a pickle jar.
No, it's not a pickle jar. It's my go-to mug. This is the everything mug. So it's
So you
like
just
a
have
mug,
one mug.
but it's bowl shaped too.
so
I
you
can,
could
like,
you eat
put
soup out of that
oils.
too, don't you?
It looks like a good ramen noodles bowl.
Yeah, I prefer large mugs.
Yeah.
I too prefer large mugs, which is why I'm having my Starbucks holiday brew that's left over out of my Chewbacca mug.
Cute.
That's a cool
Quick,
mug.
It's
somebody
an
do a Chewbacca
oversized,
impression.
like, it's the size of your hand.
Everyone at once, it sounds better.
I don't know how to
I don't care what you smell. Get in there.
Which is one of the very few Star Wars quotes that really works as a sex joke as well.
Oh God.
Allison, what are you drinking?
Man, that
I'm still on
segue.
that, man.
All right. I'm drinking Twinings English breakfast tea.
Yeah.
English breakfast tea.
Oh, that's very
Do
appropriate.
you have it with
thought so.
with anything in it, or just
With a
a
little
raw
honey,
dog in it?
Little
Is
honey. Wildflower honey. It's my favorite, so that's what I got.
Is it Earl Grey? Hot.
Twinings.
It is not, but
Hashtag twinnings.
Twinning.
Twinning.
All right. So why are we recording at this ungodly
What about
hour?
Dan? What's Dan drinking?
Oh,
No
Dan,
one,
what are
no
you
one
drinking?
fucking
Fuck
cares
Ian.
what I'm drinking.
I do.
I'm drinking actually it's pretty neat. I'm drinking something called Wicked Joe. It's organic coffee.
Wicked.
Wicked Joe.
No, yeah, no, it's
Did your boy Johnny Two Hammers bring that over?
no, he did. Well, it is from Maine, so maybe he might have left it here. But yeah, no, it's brewed in Maine. It's organic, so it's like, responsibly grown, and it's like it's wicked French is what it's called.
Wicked French.
It's wicked French coffee. Yeah, it's got it's like got some chocolatey undertones. It's pretty smooth. It's nice.
That's
I like
like
it.
you,
And
Dan.
want some
Chocolatey
chocolate?
undertones, pretty
Yeah.
smooth. It's a coffee
And
that matches Dan.
I'm drinking out of my Yoda mug that says "Do or do not. There is no try."
Was that inspired by a certain tuba teacher?
Maybe, maybe not.
I'm drinking out of a Slytherin mug. I forgot to say it because you
Oh,
guys
nice.
can't see me.
Nice. Hashtag Slytherin for life.
Yeah.
Wait,
we have
are
3
you
Disney
both-
mugs.
Are you both in Slytherin?
Fuck yeah. Look at these green
All
accents,
the
bro.
cool kids are.
I'm not sure how I feel about
I'm a
this.
Gryffindor.
Whoa, are
You
you,
are.
Like a
judging
Griffin
me?
dork.
No,
We've
I'm
talked
not
about this before. We should move on.
We have. Yeah, we should move on. Sorry. So what's everybody, what have we been playing this week, friends?
I've been playing Tetris with moving boxes because I'm moving.
Tetris is
Which
a
is
video
awesome.
game.
In terms of video games, I discovered a new game which I've only just started playing, but it's a la Magic. So if you like CCGs, you'll like it. It's called Stormbound. It's a mobile game,
Okay.
and it takes the CCG concept and it adds a board. So when you play a game, when you play a card, you might be playing a card that represents 4 units, and you slap those down on a particular part of the grid on the board, and then pop 4 units, and they do whatever you tell them to do. So it's kind of a neat hybrid between like a Final Fantasy Tactics type setup
Yeah.
and a card game. And it's pretty neat so far. I'm in the early stages, but I like it. And it stemmed from Magic the Gathering. I had a friend recommend it to me, and it's good so far. I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
That's cool. There was something like this where it was like a card battler, but it like the cards dropped units on a board that I was playing for
Yeah.
a while, but I can't remember the name of it. So sorry.
Yeah, and it's good, and it's a fairly accessible without hitting that paywall or anything, and I like it.
Effectively researched. Nice. That's good. That's like the subtitle of every GameBrew episode. Effectively researched.
Yeah.
Outstandingly recorded.
I do like the I'm looking at it now. I do like the aesthetic of it. It kind of reminds me of similar to what the fuck was that game? Good talk, Chris.
Effectively
Man, Ian and Chris.
researched.
With those games right there.
No, cutting off Bad North that Ian gave me for
yeah.
Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Kind of a similar aesthetic.
Yeah, it's got a good look to it. It's sleek, it feels polished, and it's a lot of fun. I think it's going to be my go-to, that and maybe some Switch stuff, because I'm moving over the next week, so I won't really have my rig up and running most of that. So
Interestingly, its publisher is Congregate, which is the website, like the gaming web, like the online game website.
yeah, with a K.
It's cool. Yeah, I used
Not
to
a
play a
C.
lot of stuff on Congregate in college.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I recommend
Okay.
for anyone interested in CCGs or just a good mobile game. It's just a good mobile game.
Gotcha. That's cool.
That is super neat.
Guys, I'm really excited about this. I found another ice cold beer cabinet in Los Angeles.
Oh my gosh.
And it's
Hold on.
better than the other one I was playing.
This just in. Ian is on the scene at our next ice cold beer cabinet. Ian, give us the scoop. What's going on?
Hi, Dan. I'm here at the ice cold beer cabinet, and I've got to say it is very cold right here.
Yes, it's ice cold. Is it? Would you say it's ice cold?
I would describe it that way. Yes.
Would you
Dan.
say it's cooler than being cool?
Hold on. Well, that's Ian on the scene. Let's go to Allison with weather. Allison, what's the weather like out there?
It cold.
All right. Thank you, Allison. All right, and on to our next segment.
No, but so it's the other cabinet that I play on is a Taito cabinet, which I think is older than the one I'm playing on right now. Mm-hmm. So that means that this one just works better and tends
It
to
just works.
it screw up
just
less. And I was playing the other day, and the thing that I love about ice cold beer, one of the things that I love about ice cold beer, is that whenever you're playing it and you get past like the third or the fourth hole, people freak out because it's like hard, like it's a difficult game, and then they start gathering around. I've never played an arcade game that gathered so many people around it. Just by playing it.
I've only seen it in the pictures that you've sent to me, so like I've never seen anyone actually play it. Next time, make one of those random onlookers record you playing it so I can see.
Okay.
I think I have a video from MagFest of it.
Yeah, I think after seeing it at MagFest, it's because it's so easy to watch because it's so tall. Like, you don't have to hover over someone's shoulders, so it's easy to kind of gather a group behind you and still see what's going on.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Nice.
But yeah, I keep meeting people. People just keep coming up and being like, "Hey, what's this thing?" I'd be like, "It's this great game called called Asshole Beer." Let me tell you about it.
Asshole beer. That's what we do.
Anyway, so I hit my all-time high score
Nice.
this weekend,
Which is how many holes?
I cleared the 10th hole and was shooting
Nice.
for 11.
How many are there?
There are 12.
Ooh.
Nice.
Close.
Yeah, so I almost have.
You're gonna go
cleared a
pro soon?
cabinet. No, I'm not even close to going pro. People came up when I was on like hole 6 and they were like, "I've never seen anyone get this far before." I was like, "How many times have you watched people play this game?"
This is the second time.
2.5.
You're not going to go pro in the ICBL? That's the Ice Cold Beer League.
Dude, everyone knows about the Ice Cold Beer League.
Dude, everyone
ICBL.
knows it's about ICBL Europe these days, so don't even start with me.
Isn't it what that Jamaican team got really good at years ago?
That was bobsledding.
Was that
Bobsledding. That was ice cold. That was that was ice cold
They were
sleds.
practicing in their
Gotcha.
tubs.
Oh my god. Dan, what have you been up to?
So on the last episode, I talked about playing the one-shot demo of Resident Evil 2, and since then, Resident Evil 2 has come out, and I have since completed it on my first run
Nice.
through. So
Let's can we actually talk about that in the second half, because I feel like that's important.
yes, I will not talk about it now, but Chris put that in the ding counter. Here's the sound.
Oh,
I guess that's a medium game. I would classify that as.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Dan's
yeah.
probably leading the
Fuck yeah, dude! 2019,
So we're-
finish all the shit.
In case-
That's my motto this year. Hashtag 2019, finish all the shit.
we're keeping track of games that we're beating, so just putting that out there.
It's out there, but I did also.
should we announce also our swear jar?
Oh, that's
we
true.
should.
We got it. We'll talk about that after, because I did buy Kingdom Hearts 3 as well, so I've been playing that too. I've got about 16 hours into it.
Which means are you past the introduction yet?
No, I'm just kidding. I am. The introduction lasted way longer than I thought it was. It's basically the whole first world is the introduction that you're
Yeah.
in. It didn't give me a title splash until then, so it was really neat.
Egregious. Chris,
But-
what about you?
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. It's more Kingdom Hearts. That's basically all I was gonna say. More Kingdom Hearts.
So I've been playing a little bit more of the same. A little Total War Warhammer, finishing out my dwarf campaign. Mm-hmm. writing stuff in the Book of Grudges, you know. Sea of Thieves, I've picked back up, and that's been fun.
Yay!
And then I picked up, so this week, a sad thing happened. I got into a car crash, and I think my car's totaled.
Yeah.
Chris is
Oh,
okay,
man.
everyone.
I'm okay. We're
Just
okay.
so-
Everyone's
I didn't
okay.
know that. I'm sorry.
Car's not okay, though.
Yeah.
So I used to drive a Dodge Challenger, so because I've been missing that, I picked up Forza Horizons 3 so I could drive my car again.
Wait, are you going to get a new? Are you
Does
going to
it
get a
feel the
new
same?
station wagon?
No, I'm probably going to get another Challenger.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
So you've moved on from station wagon lane. Chris used to drive a station wagon exclusively through That's like all he wanted was a station wagon. Do you
I
guys
do
not
love my
remember this?
Magnum. I loved my
That
Magnum, a
Magnum
lot.
was pretty cool.
He loved his station wagons.
Yeah, and I had a Volvo before that too. No, I'm waiting to go back to station wagons until I'm at that stage of my life again.
Oh,
But right
when
now,
you have
I
children to
don't
put
have
in it.
I don't have responsibilities like that, so I'm driving a
Okay.
Challenger.
So instead, he can drive a car that goes.
Yes,
Just like that.
Yeah,
just like that.
Does he drive a clown car?
Today's podcast sponsored by Dodge.
But
Chris, I don't understand cars, but I now see the allure after that
Yes.
sexy engine noise.
yeah, that engine noise is that exact engine noise. If you drove a Tesla, you could make that record that sound
And
play
just
that
make it
every time
play.
you sell it.
Oh my gosh.
So-
yes.
on a serious note, actually, like Forza, and are you playing this with a steering wheel or?
No, I'm playing it just with a controller.
Okay, I was going to be curious about the handling, because one of the things that is it Forza, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of prides themselves on is the handling is supposed to be fairly similar to the real life equivalent vehicle.
Yeah, I mean it drives really well. I mean, as much as you can pick up from a controller, but Forza games have always really felt good, and I kind of prefer them to Gran Turismo, but it's been a while.
Oh, Gran Turismo. That's the one that has the similar handling, right?
Yeah, Gran Turismo is always
yeah.
like they're really strong on making sure that you actually have to brake and think about things. Yeah.
People spend money on major setups for that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Allison, what about you?
I haven't had internet, so I've been playing Ragnarok Online on my phone. That's it.
What level are you? Are you doing dungeons or raiding or anything yet?
I kind of, they kind of have that start pretty low with the guild and stuff, but I'm level 75 now. So yeah.
Oh, damn, that was fast.
I've been playing a lot of it.
Allison, is this worth it for someone who I enjoyed WoW and I loved it? Is this like an MMO for MMO fans, or is this an MMO for a different type of fan?
It's a little of both, because Ragnarok Online was a computer MMO that I grew up on, and I really enjoyed it. It was very cute, very adorable. It had some fun little features that other MMOs didn't try, so it was something new. And they pull a lot of that in, but it's on the go, so that's good.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. I like that I can play it when I'm not at a computer. So
Cool.
yeah.
Nice. All right, so for anyone who watches Netflix, we all know that Marie Kondo's tidying up is a thing. Yes, we all know this.
I'm aware of it. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I haven't watched it because I don't want her to tell me how to live my life.
So
I watched it
basically,
while I packed. It was not a
Yeah.
good life choice. I got really stressed out.
oh man,
Ooh, I
yeah,
bet.
I'm sure. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to take the idea of revisiting our things and apply it to video games. So we're going to take a look at our backlogs this week and look at the games that are in there and why. And then we're going to choose one that we're going to play for next week and come back to it. So what I wanted to ask, and especially actually to Will, because I know Will has a bunch of games that he hasn't had a chance to get to. I want to know, Will, what's the number one game in your backlog that you're thinking about these days, and why haven't you played it yet?
The number one is Red Dead Redemption 2.
You have Red Dead Redemption 2 and you're not playing it?
Yes, I got that
weird.
and Spider-Man for Christmas. I did Spider-Man first so that I felt like if I played Red Dead first, that Spider-Man wouldn't have quite the effect.
Interesting.
And enjoyment. So I played Spider-Man first, and it was amazing. And I haven't played Red Dead 2 yet because the move. I've been packing like everything in the house except for, you know, my computer setup and such. And between that and the master's degree and work, I'm just too busy to sit down and start that yet. I want to wait until I have the time to dedicate to that. So that's the one I want to play the most. There's a bunch of other stuff
you're saying that you can't, or you've chosen not to play Red Dead because it's not something that you can eat in little bites. Like you want to like consume.
Want to, when I sit down to play Red Dead, I want the big full on like porterhouse steak size portion of it every time I sit down to play. And so something that's on my backlog, you guys are going to punch me in the face when you hear this. I've played it, but I haven't. I've only logged 2 hours, and I think this is going to be a little more appropriate in terms of being able to play with such a busy lifestyle going on over the next couple of weeks. Doom.
Dude,
like 2016.
The brand spanking
so
new
good.
Doom.
Yeah, it's really good. Like they did a good job. The new one's coming out soonish too. That should be.
There's another one?
They're coming out with a sequel to that Doom. So.
Oh damn! I better get on it.
It's so good though.
I better get on that. And that's something you can do in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, and you should definitely make sure to have like a good headset that you can crank.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, I played it back when it first came out, and I was just like, "Oh man, this is so much fun!" And then just like that, and then I mean, life started, and I got busy. I was like, "Oh man, I don't have time," and I just forgot.
This is interesting to me that Will has at least two basically AAA games in his backlog, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Doom, because I went through my backlog and almost none of them are AAA titles. Does anybody else have AAA titles in their backlog?
I guess not.
yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of.
I still have all the Fallout games in my backlog. I've played some of them, but I haven't finished any of them, so I count that as in my backlog.
I mean, I have the newest Deus Ex. I have Mafia 3. I mean, there's just games that I haven't gotten to from Humble Bundle.
Yeah, especially because of that.
So what's interesting about this topic to me, because we could all say like, yeah, we just don't have time to get to like all the things that we want to do. But at the end of the day, like we log onto our computers and we all have downtime of some kind and we use it some way. And Chris, like I see you playing games all the time. The question is, why not these particular games that are in your backlog? Because you could not play Total War Warhammer, but you do.
Because it's so good.
Or Warhammer Total War. Well, right, but you're also sort of robbing yourself of the opportunity to discover new games or to discover games that you already own.
Sure, and that's a good point. And I think it's just kind of the mood I'm in. Like with Total War Warhammer, I can kind of sit back and it's almost relaxing in a way because it's a lot of like civilization management, but it's also like the active times of the battles, if I want to fight them, can get pretty intense. So it's kind of a little bit of both. And there's not really a story because you're making the story, I guess.
What are some games that are sitting in your backlog aside from Mafia and...
I'm pretty sure I bought this game when I bought my PS4 back in 2014. But I need to play Killzone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Killzone Shadowfall.
I've been holding on to Killzone for a while.
That was like a release title for the PS4?
It was a release title.
Yeah.
The same company that made Horizon Zero Dawn. So I think it's supposed to be pretty good.
That's how I would describe it. Pretty good.
You played it?
Yeah, back when I originally bought my PS4 before everyone decided to play Xbox and then to go back to PS4, I bought it.
Yeah, sorry about that, by the way.
I'm not sorry at all. You suck it up.
And then the other one, just because it's kind of quick, I was looking at that Dragon Cancer. I don't know if anyone else has played that, but I've heard it's also very emotional.
It's very, story-y and tugs at the heartstrings.
Are you proud of your backlog?
It's like going to a hoarder. Are you proud of all these things that you own?
Do these things spark joy?
I mean, it's not that so I've gotten to the point now where I've realized that I can't have everything installed at all times.
True.
Just now?
Not like just now, but like a while ago I figured that out. And so I've kind of accepted that and started to remove games from my hard drive that I've either just never going to play or I've already beaten. it's kind of there, and it is what it is. And I don't know. I'm glad that I have the opportunity to play all these games, but at the same time, yeah, you're right. I do kind of wind up playing some of the same games a lot of the time.
I kind of equate it to having shelves full of books, you know, with video games.
Absolutely.
Because I have a lot of books, and people are always like, when people are in my apartment, or I used to have a much larger library. Now I don't have a lot of space, so they're not all out. I'm working on that though. But the thing I used to do is I used to go to secondhand booksellers and get cool looking books or really neat editions of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool to do that, especially because they're inexpensive, and if you can extend the life of a book, definitely do it. It's totally worth it. But it's
That's interesting.
Yeah,
because I guess I don't see the connection, because you're displaying the books and also it's like you're extending the life of something physical, but you're kind of doing neither thing with video games.
Right. And that was kind of my point that I was getting to, which is with all these books that I have, I can go back and read them, and I do every once in a while. And it's the same. That's the same with video games, I feel like, which is where it's like once you finish a video game, let me give an example here. The Evil Within 2 was a great video game, and I loved playing it. I'm not going to go play it again because I figured out all the stuff there was to do. There's not really a whole lot more I could do with it, unless in a few years I feel like playing it again because of nostalgia's sake, which would be like, I've read the Lord of the Rings trilogy a few times, but you know what? I think maybe I might go read The Hobbit again, because it's been a long time since I read The Hobbit, and I really like The Hobbit. So I think that's kind of interesting, like an interesting comparison with it. But I mean, yeah, you can't also, unless you have physical copies of the games, you can't really display them and be like, hey, look at all these games that I have, especially with Steam and stuff like that now. Sorry, Will.
Some people do that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dan, and I think that's a thing that PC gaming, and in particularly once Steam kind of came around, has really fostered a culture of like, I'll buy crap that I want to play that at some point, and I know I can play it at any time, even if it's 10 years from now, because Steam has set up that expectation, and not just Steam, but others as well, has set up that expectation of, oh, it'll just sit there, I'll get to it when I get to it. It's going to be compatible with the hardware 10 years from now, because through the system, they're going to keep it up. And I like that, and it is kind of like books. It's like, oh, I want to read that book. I'll get to it eventually. I don't have time now, but I know I want to read it at some point. And so I think that's kind of fosters that backlog mentality of it's okay to have a giant backlog.
Yeah.
Have you guys been paying attention to the Metro Exodus debacle with the Epic Game Store and the Steam stuff? Because that kind of, it's unfortunately, it kind of makes that like, oh, I can buy it on Steam and then it'll be fine. Not necessarily. Because
it's fine. They're still gonna. You'll still get your game on Steam.
Yeah, just in a year and a half from when it releases.
Oh, really? Is that what happened?
No, yeah. They said it will release eventually on Steam. When it does, you can get it there, or you could go to the Epic Game Store and buy it. So
buy it and have it right now.
Yep.
I'll wait.
I'm fine with that. I'm glad that there's someone. Epic, although I'm not a huge fan of Epic, but I'm just glad there's another store that's competing with Steam.
I mean, I don't know if it's. I mean, what Epic is doing though is kind of it's like the whole PS4 versus PlayStation. Like it's two different stores now.
Yeah,
and, like you can't play games where you want to. I mean, obviously it's opening up a different launcher, but like still.
Maybe we should come back to this topic, because this is a different topic.
Sorry. I derailed that a little bit.
It's all right. Allison, are you? Do you find that there is a specific kind of game that sits in your backlog?
The ones that I feel like are really story driven are the ones that always sit in my backlog, because I want to be able to just dedicate time to them. And unless I have like a free weekend or something, I don't want to start them. So I got Red Dead Redemption 2 on accident.
On accident.
On accident.
How do you get something on a whoops? Where did that $60 go?
Well, I mean, I bought Spider-Man on Black Friday when it was on deep dive sale because I wanted it. And instead I got Red Dead Redemption 2. So I kept it because I was like, I want to play this too. So that's fine. That I haven't played that. And then Detroit Becoming Human. That has that was a gift. So that's the one I'm going to play for sure, because I've been meaning to do it, and it's such a heavy story that I haven't really worked on it yet.
Is Detroit Become Human, is that by Quantic Dream?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Because I know Heavy Rain was like that too, where it's like, I gotta sit down and spend the time.
Yeah. So those are the big ones for me. And then Doki Doki Literature Club is actually one I've meant to play for so long, and I've just never done it. So that's another one I can think of.
So story games tend to sit around for you.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, me too, actually. I do find that story-heavy games are the ones that tend to sit around. But it's not because I want a chunk of time. It's because, for me at least, that there are other games that offer a more immediate kind of like release of good feelings. Like, I can hop into Monster Hunter and immediately be hunting a monster and feel like I've accomplished something. But story games, it's like you have to give something to them in order to get something back. It's a little like reading a book.
So with a book, at least you can kind of go back and figure out what you were doing, though. Like, what's like, oh, what happened on that page? I wasn't really paying attention when I was reading it. With a video game, it's kind of like, I forget how to play Dark Souls. What am I doing? You know.
And there are some games that kind of remind you of where you were in the story, at least, so you can kind of get back and it'll be like, oh, you just did this and this. This happened.
The Dragon Age games are really good about that.
Kingdom Hearts did not do that. It tried.
No, because no one knows what's going on in Kingdom Hearts. It's just a mystery.
It's just chaos all the time.
We'll talk a little bit more about Kingdom Hearts later. I think we're good to wrap up the first half here. Yeah, right.
Well, I think we still have to talk about what we're gonna play. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the deal is we are going to dig back into our backlogs and sort of reclaim something from the void that we have of games sitting around. So I'm going to go through each of us, and we're going to pick one of our games already in our backlog and commit to playing it at least for a little bit next week. And then next week we'll come back and talk about it. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Christopher, what are you going to play?
Killzone.
Shadowfall. Dan.
I'm going to play Outlast 2 because that's been sitting on my thing for a while. I like the spooky and
spoops.
I love being spooped.
And things with it too.
Tell us how many spooky ghosts it's gonna get.
I'm gonna say, well, apparently, like Outlast 1 got like a full haunted house full of spooky ghosts. So. Like this is, I'm gonna hopefully say like at least, you know, a residential 2 stories worth of spooky ghosts.
That's a solid amount of spooky ghosts, man.
What are you gonna pick up?
I think I'm gonna do Detroit Become Human because I really want to get that done. It's a big goal of mine since it was a gift.
All right, I like it. Will?
I really want to say Doom, but with me moving, that's a crapshoot as far as when I can get the PC hooked back up and all that. So I think I'm actually going to say, because I never finished it, so it's definitely on the backlog and I need to restart, Xenoblade Chronicles 2
yes.
on the Switch, because I've got it and I played several hours of it and liked it, but it's been long enough I've forgotten, and I really want to beat that game.
Are you going to restart, or are you just going to...
I'm going to restart. It's been long enough to where I need to restart, and this is exactly the type of thing that the Switch excels at. I can't do anything else, and I'm going to be all over the place between houses, and I think that's probably the safest bet, and actually fulfill that gaming void over the next week.
Fill the void.
Filling that void.
Got it. And I'm going to take on Undertale. I think that's the way to go, because I've talked about it so much, but never actually played it.
Ooh.
All right.
You haven't
excited to know what
actually
you
played
think.
it. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I tried that game and just didn't do it for me.
It's interesting and difficult sometimes. So.
All right, that's it for the first half of the show. We're going to take a break here, but stick with us. When we come back, we'll talk about games and nostalgia and whether nostalgia is ruining gaming or making it better. welcome back to the second half of the GameBrew podcast, early morning edition. How are we doing with our coffees here, friends? You know what? Actually, fuck that. Yeah, this is the GameBrew podcast.
You guys drinking beers?
Drinking
Breakfast
beers.
It's 6:28. I'm pouring a Wookiss into a glass. Don't judge me.
Wookiss.
I'm on cup number 5 of coffee, so
Whoa.
you keep doing.
I'm finishing
both.
my Wookiee mug, which is like 2.5 cups because it's a deep mug.
I just popped open a Southern Tier Tangier India Pale Ale. It's an ale brewed
I
with
like how you
tangerine
phrased that.
peels, so it's kind of like a mimosa.
Yeah, kind of like a mimosa.
Kind of.
Mimosa.
Mimosa.
Not Memiosa.
Oh boy,
Every time.
every time.
So we started this thing. We need to bring the listeners in on this.
Yes.
We started the GameBrew podcast sort of swear jar kind of thing, where if you mention any of the following things, Chris, go ahead.
This one doesn't count though.
This doesn't count. You have amnesty.
You're right.
For the
God
next
damn
like
it.
10 seconds.
Yep. So there's some games that I'm sure our listeners have noticed that we like to talk about a little too much, and it's kind of like how we are with our games that we need to play and bring out of our backlog. These games we just go to too much and need to stop talking about them.
Yeah.
So Dark Souls,
Yeah.
And the winners
3,
are.
Dark Souls, The Witcher 3, Stardew Valley, and Astroneer. And Breath of the Wild's on notice.
I forgot that.
On
MySpace
notice.
game was on.
Is there anything else that we need to add to that?
No,
Well,
I
I
don't
think that's
so.
the thing. So if anyone who's listening knows of something we need to add, because you guys hear us more than we hear ourselves a lot,
true.
please let us know so we can add it to our swear jar. And if we say things that we miss and don't call each other out, please call us out.
I said Dark Souls.
Yeah, you did.
Fuck.
So Dan's currently got the...
Dan owes $1 to the swear
Owes
jar.
$1 to the swear
So
jar.
the great part about this is that you owe money to it, but then we can use that money to buy somebody a game at some point. So it's kind of like it's a community service tax.
It's a community chest. Oh, Ian's
So
putting
it's
on
in
a
your best
top hat
interest
and a
to pay
monocle. He looks like the Monopoly guy. All right.
All right, so the second thing that I wanted to talk about this week was nostalgia in gaming. So it occurred to me while I was playing Smash that nostalgia is sort of a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can help to refine established genres, art styles, game types, and sometimes it can really work against innovation, because as soon as you develop the idea for a new game, you're placing it within already predefined constraints. So is nostalgia a positive or negative force for gaming? And why? So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and Dan, you brought it up earlier, was Resident Evil 2, which is a straight up remake of a game that came out like what, 20 years ago?
Well, it's a yes, it is a remake because it's different. Like Resident Evil 2,
Yeah,
arguably one of the best Resident Evil games.
for sure.
And then I don't. Some people say Resident Evil 3 is better, but like of the original ones, I kind of liked the beginning of like the dual, like 2 different campaigns portion of it that you could do, like once as Leon and you could do it as Claire, and things are a little bit different.
Sure.
But it is a straight up remake, and that's pretty neat that they just said, hey, we're going to take the concept and all of the story stuff and just redo it with the new engine that we have and the new graphical capabilities.
Are you more excited about playing Resident Evil 2 than you would have been about playing Resident Evil 8? Because that's
Yes.
what got
That's a good
said,
question.
right? Capcom had to invest the time in its developers and all that stuff to remake a game that we've essentially already played before.
No,
So why is it worth our time?
Because I think the familiarity of it, like the fact that I've played like as Leon in Resident Evil 4, a little bit in, I think he was in Resident Evil Giraffe. I didn't play a lot of Resident Evil Giraffe because it wasn't very good. But
Yeah, Giraffe of Us was much more
yeah,
widely acclaimed.
but the Yeah, but that was really cool. Like, just going back and being like, I remember some of these moments, like whenever Tyrant shows up in RE2 is just as terrifying as it was in the original, or Mr. X, is what people refer to him as.
Mr. X.
Mr. X was just as terrifying as it was in the original Resident Evil 2, but like on a heightened scale, just because it's like... there's more, like it's easier to look at.
I don't know, Dan. I don't know if you've convinced me yet.
It's hard to convince people because it does play. It's not like you're going to be like, hey everybody, Resident Evil 2, go play it. It's more like it's more like, do you like, if you like Resident Evil games, this is kind of like bringing in the old style of Resident Evil. So not like the remasters.
I think remakes I think they serve two purposes, and a lot of that depends on marketing. Purpose number one is for the people who are around to experience that to begin with, because it is fun, whether it's gaming or something else. There's something pleasurable about nostalgic experiences. You know, like if I eat a bowl of Fruit Loops, I feel like a child again. But they do this with movies like the 310 to Yuma, True Grit. There's some amazing movie remakes out there, and we Ocean's 11, we eat those up, and we love those when they're done tastefully and they have a flair and an air of the original. And the other purpose so we get into that, and the other purpose of that is to introduce new people to the storylines or the content of those prior games. And I think that there's something special about that, especially for those of us who are around to experience that from the beginning. And it's just a lot of fun to experience.
I would like to argue that some of those don't count as nostalgia for us, because like it's not like I saw the original Ocean's 11 when the remake was announced. I was like, oh my God, Ocean's 11 is coming out again. I haven't seen this since I was negative 35.
So for you and for us, that was introducing us to the content. It wasn't nostalgia for us. It was introductory.
Yeah, it wasn't nostalgia.
I think that our generation is really nostalgic by nature. And I think it's because of the weird timing we grew up in. Because, I mean, with video games, I hold on to retro consoles and I hold on to all my physical copies of games. And that's a big thing for me, because I do like to go back and play them. But if they come out with a remastered version, that's easier for me to deal with. I don't have to worry about plugging in my old console and things like that. But I think we also see it with movies for our generation right now, like bringing back the old comic book characters we grew up with and the remakes of stuff. It's just like, it's warm and fuzzy for me and I enjoy it, but it's a double-edged sword. I do think it can go very wrong because I have a lot of memories to it. So if it's not done justice, I can't help but feel betrayed in a lot of ways.
Allison, did you play the Chrono Trigger remake?
I did not.
Or not Chrono Trigger, I'm sorry, Secret of Mana.
Oh.
There wasn't a Chrono Trigger remake, everybody.
I was confused. I was like, what?
There's a re-release thing for it.
Like an HD remaster or whatever.
No, so one of the things about the Secret of Mana remake is that it like looked slightly different and people freaked out about it because it didn't hew close enough to the original. And it's sentiment that makes me worry that this nostalgia that we've created for things in recent history is not helpful, because we're just like we're looking at things that may not stand the test of time in the first place.
Well, that's one of the mechanic things that I feel like people often have more of a problem with mechanics changing whenever they do remakes or re-releases of stuff than anything. Like the whole Mega Man thing. Whenever they came out with the new Mega Man, where they changed, like, anytime you used to be able to, like, if you were jumping when you went through the door, you would like stay in the air and continue to be in the air. And then they changed it in the new one where when you go through, you land on the floor and then you go through the door. And people were very upset about that. Like,
it's literally like a mechanic that doesn't matter at all.
Right.
Too.
There's no meaning behind it in the game, but it's just people felt like it was very silly.
Dan, you played the Resident Evil 2
Yes.
remake.
Yes.
I feel like part of the nostalgia train experience is the depth of storytelling that you can get from a game using the graphics and the capabilities and the voiceovers and such that we have the technology that we have today. The depth of storytelling you can get is so much more immersive and engaging than what they had to do years ago, which was, I mean, it was visual, but the medium for that was largely text-based or reading through things. I mean, Resident Evil had some voiceovers that was good for its time, but do you feel like that held true in this case? That was the depth of storytelling that you got better in this version than the original?
I don't think it was any better. There was less reading in it. They do kind of walk you through stuff a little bit more, which is, I feel that is something they do with a lot of remakes and re-releases, is there is less text to read through because they have voice actors available to do more stuff.
And people don't read now. It's
and
like
people
once you
don't
get
read.
to 170 characters, like that's it. They
Yeah.
tapped out. Well, so I wanted to pick a bone with that question, Will, because what you said was like basically better visual representation leads to better storytelling, and I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think there's any reason that a text-based game can't have incredible storytelling.
Well, I would agree with that. I think that it's easier to, because I mean, look at To the Moon. Mm-hmm. You know, To the Moon was one of my favorite stories of all time, and it's text-based. But I think that the immersion that you can get from something that pulls that text away and drops you into just a visual and oral experience,
I disagree with you.
can
I disagree with you.
overwhelm the text-based.
No, I think back to the games like Chrono Trigger, which I was just talking about, and think like the immersion that I had in that story was way more than I ever had in like even something as like big and visually as impressive as a Grand Theft Auto 5. You know what I mean? Like that's a visually impressive game, especially on that scale. And you know what? Didn't care for the story. Wasn't my thing.
Very true.
I think like when it comes to things like that, it's not so much that the story isn't as immersive as back in the day we had to fill in a lot of blanks. I feel like you created your own story because you really did only have text for a lot of those games. So sometimes you created their voices, sometimes you created the environment a little more because you weren't visually seeing the trailer. Well, not trailer, you know what I mean, video clips for whatever was happening. So it was more like a book in that way. And so we've created this world. And I think that's kind of the double-edged sword again, where when in the current age, we get it all in our face. Sometimes we're upset because what we had visually made for ourselves isn't what we're seeing. Or those kinds of things. I don't think it's necessarily better now to have those remakes and have those high definition visuals in your face or voice actors for certain people. I just think it's very different, and it's what we expect out of games now at a lot of times.
Right, and sometimes it doesn't live up to our imagined remembering of the games that we played.
Right, and I think with text-based games, like you're reading it a certain way and it's not being told a certain way. So the way you're interpreting it is the way the story is being told in your head versus when you see a visual, like a more HD, or like when you see an acted version of it, like in the game, versus just a written text, it's going to be, they're giving you the emotions that they're trying to say instead of you're interpreting them that way.
Yeah, you're not able to infer things. Chris, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was about the Legend of Zelda series in particular, because it's such a long-running series and it does kind of lean on nostalgia in a way. Do you think that nostalgia can inhibit new players coming to an established series? If it leans too heavily on the past, does it prevent people from picking it up? Until the most recent entry, I feel like Legend of Zelda may have been sort of nostalgic in a way that kept people away from it. At least for me, it might have been.
Really? So since I've been playing those for so long, I guess I don't see it that way. I think they're very good at leaving like hints at other games, and I really enjoyed that within Breath of the Wild, where you could see like there were scenes throughout Hyrule that looked very similar to areas in older games.
Oh, interesting.
And I think a person that's just coming to that game for the first time and not having played a Zelda game before wouldn't enjoy that. But I think those little breadcrumbs are something that's really nice for people that have been playing those games for a long time to see. And I think that enhances it, especially for someone like me who recognizes that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, that's definitely one of the things, because Legend of Zelda, because they keep coming out with them for each console that they come out with. Like, I guess whenever, well, maybe Twilight Princess was in between, but that,
yeah.
But like, those are still very accessible. Like, they don't make it so like the story is never dependent on the ones before it, you know?
Yeah, it's always a compact story. Like there's no.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is that there's like Legend of Zelda, there's an overworld, and then there's dungeons, and you collect tools along the way that help you move on in the story. Like,
yes,
that's it.
That is an adventure game, yes.
Well, no, but I guess so what I'm saying is like,
or a Metroidvania.
Why isn't there a Legend of Zelda game that's like a survival horror game?
Because it doesn't fit the world very easily.
I mean, but it could. Like, imagine a world where it's like post Ganon taking over, and there's just like nightmare creatures everywhere all the time, and you're maybe not Link, you're another character.
I mean, that's kind of what Breath of the Wild is, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. I mean,
Ganon's taking over the world, and there's monsters everywhere, and you're trying to survive by eating food and by crafting things. And
but what I'm trying to say is like, the conventions of Zelda establish a framework in which the only thing that you can ever do with Zelda is an adventure game, and there's not necessarily a reason for that.
I think it's the audience. The audience, I mean, Chris and Dan clearly love Zelda and are getting passionate about why that couldn't work. And I think that's what the audience would do, is get really upset that there was something so tangent from what the original was. And that's the trick with nostalgia, is kind of finding, keeping true to what it was, but making it different enough to be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not, to be fair, I'm not getting upset about the fact, like, you could do whatever you want with the stuff. It's just that would change the genre. That would be a different game. It wouldn't be like a remake or a remaster, because it would be a whole different thing.
Sure.
And I think Breath of the Wild was a step in a different direction from all the previous Zeldas.
BT dubs, that's dollars, guys. Just talking about.
It's money.
No, that one's on notice.
Oh, shit.
Right. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that Allison's comment about that's the reason that games don't change like that is because the audience is a similar effect to what nostalgia does, is it establishes a framework that you're then not able to advance from. So it might not be a particular game or series like Legend of Zelda. It could be an entire genre. Like the first person shooter has genre conventions that the industry feels like it has to follow to, because people have been playing first person shooters, or people remember first person shooters from way back in the day, that they feel nostalgia for, and it has to have certain things. Like a Call of Duty multiplayer without a missile strike of some kind, where it's like, is never going to happen.
They just had Blackout, which is different.
I mean, that's just like genres in general, though.
Yeah, that's just changing
genres.
genres.
We have like book genres like that are just always the same, and just because I don't see why that's a problem.
Yeah, I'm agree with Chris on this still, because I mean,
there's movie tropes for a reason. They have to check that box. They don't have to, but I mean, it's tradition. It's like a cultural tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I'm saying I wish we would deviate from established tradition more.
I think that when that happens, people take notice, and it either is very successful or not. I mean, as Chris just said, Breath of the Wild was a step in a very different direction, and it worked very well.
So how did
Halo
Wars do? Like, isn't that a
It did
kind of
fine.
sample? Like, they went a really different direction. And I think some people, when it was first announced, were really mad about it. But I do think in the end, it had a fairly good response. Although I don't think it survived very well.
Yeah, it
People were
didn't,
mad
it didn't
about
have staying power is the problem.
Yeah, people were mad they weren't getting a Halo game when that was announced.
Yeah, true. And also, like, people saw, right, they weren't getting a first-person shooter, they were getting an RTS.
Right. So, I mean, you're going to have both when you release something that's nostalgic but very different. But I think it can go well if it's done right. I'm really excited about Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is actually a prequel.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ever going to get it. I feel like they're just going to keep pushing it back. But
Yeah.
that's a game that I really adored back when I was younger, and I always wondered why they didn't continue the universe. So I'm really glad that they're doing it, and it looks good. Like they're definitely, obviously, updating the visuals. They're partnering with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his community of creators, which I think is really fun. Like, that's something that games don't do. So that's something unique and good they're bringing into it. And the gameplay looks different enough and updated, but also I get these nostalgic feels when I see the trailer and the visuals of it. So I'm very excited about that game.
But does it worry you that they're coming out with another one? Because that's what worried me about Kingdom Hearts 3 whenever it was come out. It's like, what if it's not as good
Sure, yeah,
as I want it to be?
Yeah, that always happens with these games that I feel like have taken a really long time to do a sequel. I think those are the ones that make me more nervous than anything, because they've either been working on it too long, so by the time it releases, it's going to feel dated, or they're really trying to like fine tune it and make sure it's right. So I get really antsy, and I was worried about Kingdom Hearts also, but I haven't gotten to play it yet, sadly. Money is hard, but this one makes me nervous the longer we wait. That's what I'm nervous about. I'm not nervous about the game itself if they would release it this year, but if they wait until next year, I'm now nervous.
I think a major part of this nostalgia train is also we're in a time where the game industry is more valuable quite a bit than the movie industry. And when we were growing up, that's a fairly recent-ish trend. When we were growing up, that was not the case. Video games were still very much, a taboo thing for adults to do. And now everyone plays video games. And I think a part of these recreations and these nostalgic elements are, as I mentioned earlier, to get some of those new people who may be playing games now because it's so ubiquitous into, whatever major entity that is, whether that's Zelda or Mario or
Can't wait for
whatever.
Candy Crush 2020. Or 2040, I guess.
The remaster.
Yeah.
Now that's what I call Candy Crush.
But I think it's because the industry's huge for it, and it's ripe for, hey, this was popular back then when games weren't so ubiquitous. Let's try it now when everybody's playing games and see how much money we can make on that.
Well, and also I feel like it's nice to think back to those simpler times, and that's the reason I personally get really nostalgic, because I play video games and I read books and I watch movies to kind of escape my daily life. It's kind of a nice break. So playing things that remind me of simpler times or good memories in my life, like playing in my basement, trading off controllers with my friend or something like that, like those warm fuzzies. When I get that about a game just from a title, like that's an instant, I'm going to get this and play it for that reason because I want to feel good.
For a second, I thought you were just going to stop at I read books and play video games and watch movies.
The end.
And that's just it. That's it.
You can find me on Tinder. No, I'm kidding.
So one of the one of the things I also wanted to ask was, like, looking back or having gone back to the actual titles that we played before, are the games that we sometimes put on a pedestal as good as we thought they were?
I went back to I'm doing a side project with somebody looking at sort of the chronology of the Super Nintendo system, and more on that later as we refine that and get started with that. But in any case, part of that project entails playing the Super Nintendo games in release order and sort of looking at components of it. And so I went back and played Super Mario 2, or Super Mario World. Sorry, Super Mario World. Okay. And it was way more fun now than it was then. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the mechanics of a platformer, and that I'm more coordinated now and can handle that sort of thing.
Right.
But I had way, way more fun with that now than I did then.
Going back to play GoldenEye on the N64.
Ooh.
It's difficult.
That's so funny.
Probably frustrating.
Frustrating because you have to and I was talking to Ian about this when we were at MagFest, and like how you have to stop basically to aim at anything. But he was telling me if you set up your controls a little differently, you don't have to. But like, just going from that to like a more modern first person shooter where you're kind of running and gunning, it's just so drastic.
Dude, and that shows you like how big of a big deal the DualShock controller was when it came out.
Yeah,
like,
those twin sticks, dude. That's
a big deal.
Yeah, I feel similarly with Perfect Dark. I got that.
Because it's the same game.
Right. So I got that when it came out for download on PlayStation 4. And I wanted to throw my controller because it was literally the same game just on the PS4. And I was just angry. Plus, you couldn't play online, which is all I really wanted to do with that, was play with people. It was a whole thing.
I couldn't. Yeah, I picked up like the Perfect Dark remaster or whatever for 360. And I just couldn't. I couldn't even.
It was.
No. It was in the rare replay.
It was miserable. Yeah. That and Final Fantasy VII. It's an unpopular opinion right now.
No, I could totally see that.
So Final Fantasy VII, I have it, and I tried to replay it, and I actually like that game holds a better memory for me than actually playing it does. It felt.
Oh, I love replaying that.
It felt really wonky, and that one was a remaster I wanted because I felt like the story's there, right? The characters are there, everything's great with it, except it just needed polish for modern. I just couldn't. I couldn't get past some of the wonkiness of the controlling and the visual. Like it bothered me in a lot of ways. And the voice acting. Oh.
There's voice acting.
When's there voice acting?
It doesn't that one have voice acting? I might be.
No,
I don't think so.
No,
in the
not that one.
cutscenes? No.
No.
Is it 8 that they come in with the voice acting? Then I might have. Oh, okay. My bad. Well, 8's voice acting sucked too.
Wait, no, not even 8. I don't even think it has it in that.
I'm gonna have to look this up now. Anyway, go on. There was one Final Fantasy where I the voice acting when I went back to it really annoyed me, and I thought it was 7.
10. 10's voice acting is real bad.
Titus is awful.
They're all a mess.
I didn't get to talk about this earlier. Can I talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I mean, you want to talk about nostalgia. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out 10 years ago.
Well, and also, there's like a nostalgia turducken here because all of the individual worlds inside Kingdom Hearts are nostalgic of movies that came out previously.
True, because they're all like, it's all Disney based. But like, Kingdom Hearts 3 is very interesting because we've been waiting a long time for it. And in between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3, there have been a bunch of other things that they came out with, like remasters, remakes, re-releases, prequels, a bunch of mobile games, that kind of stuff. But
I'm just thinking of the titles. I'm sorry.
358 divided by 2.
Yeah, there's
what the fuck is that?
Dream Drop Distance. There's Kingdom Hearts 2.5 remix
It's really confusing. So I was trying to go see, like, how can I go play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2? And I was like, is 1.5 and 1 and 2.5 remake? Is that
That's
it?
so frustrating
That's
for
it.
me.
No, that is. That's how you do it, because that has like all of the stuff in it with it. Because basically in Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a few things that are interesting. Number one, it's Kingdom Hearts. So one of the things about those games that you kind of forget is it's kind of a mash X sort of game.
Yeah.
Like there's not a whole lot that's intuitive about the combat from an adult standpoint. It's basically like I press X a bunch, and then every once in a while I press the right trigger and then press triangle, and then that makes crazy sparkly stuff happen that hurts a bunch of enemies around me. The second thing is that there's just so much to try and remember that it's hard to remember what happened. So there's a lot of hand-holding in the game as far as like, oh, hey, it's actually all through Donald and Goofy also, which is kind of funny.
They're like constantly reminding you what's going on.
Yeah, basically, like at one point they're just like, wait, what are those things? And Donald's like, I can't do a Donald Duck voice.
That's pretty good.
But Donald will be like, oh, those are this thing, and then Goofy's like, oh yeah, that's right, the data version of Sora. Yuck! Whenever we saw him in that computer, and it's like, when did that happen? Oh, that was in like the Kingdom Hearts like Recoded, which was Sora went into a computer and was Jiminy's journals.
I can't even with this.
It's
shit.
like so much. But they make this one kind of accessible to a current audience. They basically use all of the story stuff from the old ones to bring us back in, where it's like, hey, remember all the stuff that you went through before, like with Kairi and Riku from the first game, right. And it's still kind of going on, but in this one it's still about like, the cheesy believe in your heart, your friends are your heart, friends are great, and love and universally everybody's awesome.
Except for the people who aren't with the darkness.
Except for the darkness.
Except for the bad guys, which we need to kill all of them.
Well, you don't kill all of them because we want to combine them back with nobody, because they're nobodies.
Good
or they
God,
don't have any hearts.
I'm so confused by all of this. Like, all I heard was my favorite Kingdom Hearts was A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and I'm looking forward to Kingdom Hearts Pi R squared coming out next week. It's just like, I don't know.
I think that's a good title for one. Kingdom Hearts Pi R squared.
Well, I think with Kingdom Hearts, that's the thing. Like on the surface, it looks like this super lame cutesy game, but there is a lot of lore and a lot of crazy backstory, and it goes all over the place in the verse. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a good game.
It is, and they really dig into the Kingdom Hearts-ness of the story in the backlog. And there's less Final Fantasy people. Actually, there's almost no Final Fantasy people in this version so far.
Interesting.
It's mostly
they tend to be more endgame anyway, though.
Well, kind of. In the first one, Aerith is a big part of it. In the second one, Leon and Cloud are actually a big part of it too. And in this one, they're not there at all. So they just kind of use most of the characters they created within the universe instead of like the Xehanorts and the Xemnas, and all of Organization 13. Oh God, I'm talking about it now because it's like there's Organization 13, there's the organization.
There's like a level where you cross and I'm like just it tunes out and I'm like, yep, okay, God.
Yeah, sure. But
so kind of bringing it back around to the nostalgia land, Dan, do you feel like Kingdom Hearts 3 delivers on both the looking back of nostalgia and also the looking forward of new, something new to keep you interested, or does it lean too heavily on the nostalgia side?
I think that from a nostalgia standpoint, it's great. Because it does have all those things. It's it's Sora and Mickey and Donald. It's a Kingdom Hearts game. So you've got the Keyblades. You've got all of the crazy convoluted story. And you've got all of the Disney worlds and the feel-good kind of friendship is great and everybody is love. That sounded kind of 70s. But but it's got that. It's hard to look at it through a new player's point of view because it is so ingrained in nostalgia. And I think that might be one of the downfalls to it. Like, I think most of the people buying it are probably going to be either 29-year-olds like us, 30-year-olds like us who played it whenever we were 15 and we're like,
29
this is
and
great.
a half.
Whatever, man.
Or they're kids who are like, for us, you know what is the game? Dragon Quest. When a new Dragon Quest comes out, it's like Dragon Quest 12 or 13 or whatever they're on now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know what Dragon Quest 1 through 9 is about.
You're
but
missing
sure,
out.
13.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'd be interested to hear of somebody who's playing it for the first time who's never played any Kingdom Hearts and if it was accessible or not. So if you're out there, please tell us what you think.
All right, Chris, is there something that you feel nostalgic for that you want to shout out real quick before we wrap up?
Whoa. You're just
Aside
going to do
from
me like that?
Yeah.
Why you got to be so rude?
Hot
Don't you
takes,
know he's
Chris.
human
Hot takes.
too?
Hot takes. Something I'm nostalgic for that I just want to let everyone know about it?
Yeah.
No.
That build up for it, no.
See, I thought for sure you were going to say, like, the original Fallout.
I haven't played a whole lot of the original Fallout.
OG Fallouts, aren't.
It's
we
very
haven't played
different.
Them, so
It's way
not-
different. It's a completely different type
Yeah,
of
it's
game.
a different game. It's not easy.
I mean, at this point, I have a nostalgia for Fallout 3.
Allison, is there a nostalgia train you want to hop on?
Oh, I mean, I've hopped
toot the
on so
horn for?
many. I've hopped on so many. I'm always nostalgic for Final Fantasy, though. I really am. Even though I gave
Yeah.
7 crap and thought it had voice acting. Gosh, I really thought that in cutscenes.
I don't know where you got that from.
I don't know. In my head,
In your head, yeah.
It
was
was
just
there.
so vivid.
Yeah,
Those text,
I really did.
Text-based.
What does Cloud
really
sound
do.
like? Does Cloud sound like this?
well, I guess
I
because
mean-
I've heard him in Advent Children
Yeah,
and
that's
the
what I was gonna say.
re-releases. It was there for me with the originals, even though it wasn't.
Right. Will, nostalgia train?
OG Counter-Strike, like 1.1. I'd love for them to have a tournament of just OG Counter-Strike.
Sure, if you really want it, it's there.
It's there.
And I don't want a remake. I want, like, just bring
Take
back
back.
the original, have a tournament from it.
I tried to
I
play
played,
that.
sorry.
It was messy. I couldn't do it.
Oh, it's so much fun.
I've been playing the original Galaga lately,
Yeah.
and that game is like good, but also like not as good as you think it is.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, it's 7:00 in the morning here, so I think we're gonna wrap up this episode, this early morning episode of the GameBrew. Everybody say good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
No.
morning.
No. Don't we have to go out with the sound, the Breakfast Club? Don't you forget about me.
And
then we just
I don't
fade
know
it
if I can
out.
put that music in without paying a bunch of money.
You can do like 5 seconds of it.
Okay.
You can probably get the
I
don't
don't
you
know
forget
if that's
about
real,
me.
but that's fine.
We can use it. We just can't monetize it.
Well, fine.
All right. Well,
Goodbye, everybody, then.
That's it for the show. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, it is. I mean, there's definitely like different things in it. Like it's. I'm sorry, I'm reading and now I lost my train of thought. It's fine. I'll adjust it.
Choo choo.
No, he lost it, so you have to choo choo like a question. Choo choo?